Let's go fishing. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. My buddy Slop Catching and I went catfishing early morning. And we started about 4 a.m. and the bite was really taking off. So after him bringing in the last fish on the bank, he was able to bring in another one right here. Just kidding, it was a stick. But always worth putting clips like this in the vlog so you guys see that, fishing isn't always just catching fish, sometimes debris, or sometimes not catching anything at all. But not long after, I got on another fish on my rod. Same type of gig as the other fish, pretty decent fight, but we were able to bring the fish in on the bank. And I'll tell you what, this catfish was fired up. I always tell them, they get a snack, I get a picture, it's no big deal. But then as the sun came up, the bite slowed a little bit. However, my buddy ended up hooking into a fish right here with some beautiful scenery behind him. You can't get any better views than this. And yet another catfish he was able to bank flip with ease. But even though he just brought that catfish in, like I said, the bite had started to slow once the sun came up. And to pass the time, you know what I had to do as a bass fisherman, pull out the bass rod and see what else I could catch. I was just tossing around my silver rattle trap to see what would bite. But then I heard one of my rods going off, so I dropped the rod and ran over really quick. Unfortunately, it didn't end up being a fish, so I got my rod tangled in a tree for nothing, but hey, all in the name of the game. So I went back to casting out my rattle trap to see if I could get anything. I'd heard there's some decent striper in this area, as well as largemouth and smallmouth bass. But as you saw, I reeled in pretty quick because one of my rods was going off. Now, this was one of those situations where the fish hit and then left slack line. So my buddy was kind of coaching me through what I needed to do. So I tightened the line and then watched the rod, and as soon as I saw another hit, I picked it up to see if the fish was on. And yep, we had a fish on. Another fish hooked up with some beautiful scenery. This fish as well put up a decent little fight, but I was tangled into a tree as well with my line, so my buddy went to get the line out of the tree. Once I got the fish close to the bank, I figured I could probably go down there and just pull it over the rocks. Especially with the tide going out, it was hard to get the net over the rocks. But it ended up being a nice catfish. A decent sized blue cat on the bank. Let's go. Even though the bite had slowed, this had still turned out to be a fantastic morning so far. It's a healthy fish for sure. So I cast it back out and set the rod up to see if I could get anything else, and then got back to casting with my rattle trap. I hadn't really had any bites on that so far, but it's worth a shot. I did end up having a hit on my other rod, but when I went to check it, it must have just been a swipe. And then at this point, I decided to toss out some night crawlers on just the line with several split shots on there. And this was not only to pass the time, but also to catch some more cut bait. So I would just cast it out and hold it in my hand, waiting for that tug on the line. But honestly, after catching all those catfish, my patience for holding this rod was very low. And while I did feel a couple bites here, I wasn't able to get a hook set. As you can see, I tried but failed. But anyway, stay tuned for part 3.